Happy Friday and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm joined by Melissa Palmer. Good day, Melissa.
Hello, Rick, and happy Friday. How's the weather over there?
The weather, you and the weather. Actually, it's cloudy and warm-ish. We'll call it, we don't need a coat or anything, but it doesn't hurt like it did. How about there in Jersey?
About the same, nice and warm, a little bit sunny, no complaints.
Yeah, it's summertime, good time. We've got something different here today. We're going to mix it up. So for those of you joining us, welcome, first of all. We want to know where you're from. So in the LinkedIn chat here, drop your location, and we're going to light up this beautiful map that will showcase all of the attendees and where they're from. So your country or U.S. state, drop that in there. Let's green the world, as it were. So we'll get this going here momentarily here in the show. So, all right. So Rick and Melissa, you know us. I know me. You know yourself, Melissa. But we have a guest today. So I'd like to introduce Mark Crespi. Good day, Mark.
Good day. Good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So Mark, give us a quick introduction of yourself, your role, and who you work for.
Sure. So I'm Mark Crespi. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Exagrid, a longtime Veeam partner, and I'm happy to get to talk about that today.
Awesome. Cool. So that is the topic of the day. And guess what? We even prepared some content to go over. So let's take a look at that right now. And we have a quick PowerPoint topic. We're going to call it the future of tiered backup storage. And so Mark's going to walk us through a journey, but he's not going to be on easy street. So what are we going to do, Melissa?
We're going to ask him questions. Don't worry. I don't know. I find this to be an exciting topic. I like backup and I like storage. So I'm always concerned with backup storage and what I can do with it, right?
Indeed. So Mark, walk us through what we're going to talk about today.
Sure. The agenda is going to start with a little bit about the Veeam Exagrid partnership, how it formed and how long it's been going on. Then we'll talk about the definition of tiered backup storage. What does that mean? What are the benefits to customers of that approach? I broke one benefit out separately, our scalability, because I think that's a huge benefit for our customers, and then we'll close with a summary.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's jump into the next one, and then tell us about that partnership, because that's an important one.
Sure. So obviously, I mean, both companies are highly focused on backup. I will say Veeam obviously has a broad array of data management, data protection functionality. Exagrid is a backup storage target that sits behind Veeam. So we're very focused on backup. We've been partners for over 10 years. We're both credited with having best-of-breed products in the market. And this is evidenced by our customer satisfaction scores that you can see here. Both architectures are very different from other solutions in the market. And the products are tightly integrated. We work very well together as as partners. We've cross-trained our support organizations so that customers that are working with both solutions get a seamless experience. We want a bunch of industry awards, and we're going to talk about being the only tier backup storage approach in.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is a little funny is the very first backup repository I ever worked with in Veeam was an Exagrid. So I can say, as someone who is new to Veeam and all these things and what they meant, setting up my Exagrid was actually pretty seamless and has been working pretty well since. So they do integrate very well. Very simple to use, just like Veeam.
Yeah, good piece of trivia. And, Mark, you said integrated for over 10 years now. Now, I don't always tell jokes, Mark, but I will on LinkedIn Live completely unprepared. But this will win everyone a bet. Like, if you want to get a free drink at the bar, bet somebody. Who was the first storage integration that Veeam ever had? The reality is it is Exagrid, and it was done by Exagrid because, that's one of the great techniques that you guys have done over the years. Like you've had an integration on the receiving end of our data before even the data mover that we have now. So anyways, really, really good stuff. So let's go to the next slide here and tell us a little bit more about how it works.
Yes, so we coined the phrase tiered backup storage, and the idea is to combine what we call the best of both worlds. And what is the best of both worlds? Well, first thing customers want is they want performance, both in terms of the speed of backups as well as the speed of restores, especially advanced restores like instant VM recovery, which Veeam pioneered, and so on. Beyond that, they need to keep retention. Weeks, months, potentially years worth of backups to meet company policy, to meet regulatory requirements, et cetera. And in that case, that's where deduplication comes into play to keep the economics under control. So the pros of that are, less disk usage. We also have a very advanced ransomware recovery option. We're not going to get in a lot of detail about that today. We've eliminated the idea of forklift upgrades, customers having to replace entire systems periodically. And we've also eliminated obsolescence. So we never tell a customer they can't run a product. They upgrade on their time frame, not ours.
So that brings up a good question that I've got. And, when I hear this phrase long-term retention, I talk to shed loads of different types of customers, Mark. How long is long-term? And, in terms of the storage that you have?
Yeah, I think the answer would be it's somewhat subjective. Many customers keep 4, 8, 12 weeks, maybe 12 weeks starts to get into the long term. But we have a number of customers, if you look at certain industries like healthcare, financial, where they're mandated to keep months, years. I know in Texas, for example, they have to keep medical records for 7 to 21 years.
Wow. I speak to some organizations that actually have a different problem, and they just aren't actually sure how much or how long they need to retain. So they've gotten into the retain everything forever scenario, which is, a lot of times I kind of feel that those types of organizations don't have a good handle on their requirements, or there's a lot of different types of potentially regulated environments that are intermixed, right? So they just kind of go with the highest common denominator or the longest term retention or something like that. So yeah, that's a good explanation. So, these types of storage technologies work well for that, it sounds like. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the more you retain, the better the storage efficiency over time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the key measurement there is the deduplication ratio. And that number is going to climb the more copies of the data you keep, because it's between backups, the data is highly redundant. And that's where deduplication has its biggest strength, is it can store all of that data without storing all of the redundant data, just when needed.
All right. Well, let's go to the next one here. So give us a little bit more insight on that.
Yeah, so back to the tiered backup approach, one of the things we recognized was that most restores, operational restores, customers trying to get critical systems back up and running, occur from the most recent backups. So when you look inside the Exagrid appliance, we have those two tiers. We have what's called the landing zone, called our performance tier, and then we have the retention tier where that long-term retention is kept. The landing zone tier is typically going to have 1 to 2 weeks of the most recent backups stored. So if the customer needs those backups back rapidly, they don't have to go through the process of undoing the deduplication, sometimes called recall. And this comes into play, and it's very important in VM, because we can serve those virtual machines up with near production and storage performance.
Yeah, and I have to say, I get a little nerdy when it comes to the architecture of backup repositories, because let's face it, they are important. That's where your data is actually going to go. And from an architectural perspective, I really love this. Early in my career, when I was designing storage systems, some of the gut instinct is, I want to make sure I have the cheapest storage I possibly can, because I have to store all this data, right, for my backups. But the truth is, how good are those backups if you can't restore them quickly, right? So those massive, massive drives, not going to work so good if I need to restore everything really, really fast, which is why I really kind of like this dish cache landing zone, right? Because, hey, there's where I can do my restores from super fast if I have some kind of event, if my application just restored, who cares? So, yeah, I think this is actually really cool. And it takes a lot of, I hate to say it takes a lot of the design complexity out of designing your repository, right? Because this is just going to all do it for you versus, okay, I need this repository to be my fast repository, then I got to send it someplace else and all that stuff. So this is a really simple solution. Yeah. So let's head on over to the map and see who's tuning in. All right, so we have a ton of countries out here today. If we start in Europe, we've got Switzerland, France, Ireland, Belarus, Greece, the Netherlands, Serbia, Turkey, Kenya, the United Kingdom. Wow, that's a lot. And then moving on, we also have India, We have Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. And then if we come back to the US, we have a couple others. We have Canada and Oregon have joined us as well. So we have a great turnout today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. So let's get back to Mark schooling us on some of this backup repository architecture, which I'm loving.
One more thing though, Melissa. Some of you attending live may have noticed that we have closed captioning on the stream here today, and I just got it working on my phone here. So we're always trying new things here. So if you want to turn that off, you can, like if the English isn't helping you, that type of thing. But if you go desktop mode, you get the best experience. But we're trying something new. We got some feedback, trying to add it in. So it's actually doing pretty good. I'm liking what it is typing. So it actually seems to work. So anyways, that's another announcement. But Mark, tell us about some scale out technology.
Sure. So, one of the other things we recognize, in addition to having a tier, how do we tackle the problem of data growth? Customer data is growing. I very rarely heard a customer who's just flat shrinking. So we hear anywhere from 30% to 100% a year, so on. And there are a lot of solutions on the market that provide you with sort of a single computing element, and then you expand by adding just more disk. Obviously, especially in a deduplication, it's hard. Just adding capacity or work, and your performance is going to degrade as more work comes into that computing resource. So we decided up front that we would be a scale out, which means that every time one of our customers expands, we add a fully functional appliance into that what we call site or grid. And that's going to have additional network ports. It's going to have additional landing zone, additional repository, and also additional processor, additional memory, et cetera. So the backup window and deduplication time we can achieve on day one is going to be maintained as the customer's data doubles, triples, et cetera. And this also allows us to mix and match appliances of different capacities, and also allows us to mix and match appliances of different generations and avoid that product obsolescence aspect.
So you said mix and match, and that actually, I already know the answer because I just did it, but just for the attendees,
sure.
This means that I could take, so I'll just disclose. Exagrid's been a great partner. They hooked us up here in the lab. We've got, I think, 4 of them. No, we have 3. We have 4 now, used to have 3. And we implemented this lab in 2016. So we had some, nearly 5-year-old models. And then last year we added another different series. We keep them all upgraded on the software. But Mark, am I hearing it right that it's that easy, mix and match, to scale it out across the life cycle of one's data, and it's that easy? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our existing product family, it's made up of a number of different capacities per appliance. And a customer can expand in whatever amount they need. They don't have to overbuy. We don't force them to underbuy to save money, et cetera. Also generationally. So when we come out with a new appliance, and we do so every 12 to 18 months, our current customers don't panic thinking we're going to end of life what they already own. They can take that brand new appliance at higher capacity, higher throughput, and add it into what they already own.
Yeah, that's great, because that's what we've done. In fact, I think the models we had before weren't 10 gig, but the new one is, and we can mix that. I mean, little things like that, friends, for that long-term, just, ease of use, that makes a big difference. And, little truth be told, every time I demo from our lab, it's running off of an Exagrid from the backup standpoint.
And it has a huge economic benefit as well.
Well, I got it for free, but that's well, different. Yeah. So sorry, that's not normal, guys. That's partners being partners in the market. That part is normal, but no, I shouldn't have said that, because that's unique to our situation. But tell us a little bit more about the tiering, Mark.
Yeah, so to summarize, so the tiering helps in 2 ways. One is it provides a very short backup window because we've eliminated the concept of inline deduplication processing in storage, which can slow backups down, and therefore we've got the fastest possible backups, which result in a short backup window, which is a key concern for most IT departments. Then, because of that landing zone performance tier architecture, we keep most recent data in its entirety, just as Veeam has written it. And therefore, we avoid the rehydration penalty of putting deduplicated data back together for the 95% of the restores that customers are going to do. And again, more importantly, for instant VM recovery, where you want production level quality and performance, because users are actually going to use these systems. And if the systems are degraded because you're fighting deduplication, then users are less productive, and that has a hidden cost to organizations. And then finally, we can scale out our systems. We go up to 2.7 petabyte of a full backup in a singly managed system. All of the appliances in that system cooperate. You manage them through a single UI. They do automatic load balancing. So it really, despite the fact that it's multiple appliances, they're all connected together in a site, and you manage them as a single entity within that site.
And I think you really hit it, right? Management of all this stuff. We don't want it to be difficult. We don't want it to be hard. Super easy, super seamless. And I have used the UI as well. Very simple to set up. Like Rick made me set up my own folders and everything, and just kind of gave me the keys to everything when I got to Veeam. Was like, good luck with that, have fun. And I did. It wasn't that difficult at all. And remember that it's all about recovery, and I'm going to keep saying that over and over and over. And I love the fact that those recoveries are so super fast when we're using that fast tier storage.
Yeah, one other thing I'll add is that even the synthetic fools, right? This integration isn't just the recovery and the storage efficiency, but there's another efficiency that's realized, and that's time. Those synthetic fools just are basically lightning quick. So end to end, you have these great types of benefits that you can have. So,
and I should add one other thing, Rick. Sorry to interrupt you. We also have integrated the Veeam Data Mover directly into the appliance, and that helps with the synthetic fools also.
Yeah, that becomes a local disk manipulation of sorts with Veeam code is basically what's happening there, and it's persistently updated, or it's dynamically updated every time it runs. So it's actually really smart. So tell us about some awesome geometry here, Mark.
So we've got a hexagon, which I know you're a fan of. And it talks about our performance tier, our retention tier. It's really meant to just summarize the story, obviously, right? We've got our ransomware story, and the lowest cost and world-class support, obviously.
So tell us about that ransomware recovery. That's that retention lock, is that right?
That's right. There's 3 layers to the protection. One is that our retention tier does not face the network. So it can't be directly accessed from the outside world. Only our software can access it. Secondly, we use immutable objects. So every time a backup is written to an Exagrid, we write it as a new object. So let's assume for a moment you do a Monday night backup. That backup is intact, and gosh forbid, you have an attack on Tuesday. Everything Monday backward is intact because we don't overwrite those objects with the new backups. So customers can recover, the minute they notice that unfortunate event from the most recent backup prior to the event. And then finally, we have something called delayed deletes. So if the attack is not an encryption-oriented attack, but a deletion-oriented attack, there's a configurable parameter that administrators can set where we will queue those delete requests, but not act on them for that period of time. And that can be anywhere from 0 to 30 days.
Oh, that's actually pretty smart. Basically interjecting at the command and control plane of the storage I/O functions. That's actually a pretty cool way. In addition to, so this is a great way of looking at it. And the one thing I'll highlight here is that the landing zone is a unique differentiator. And I'm going to ask you kind of a twisted up question on that, Mark. So first of all, as I understand it, the landing zone has the most recent copy of backup data available basically at disk performance without rehydration and things like that. First of all, is that a good way of explaining the landing zone?
Absolutely.
Now, the reverse is this true that it basically doesn't get a storage efficiency? Meaning, so there's a slight, if you have all of this storage efficiency with deduplication, which is great,
yeah.
The trade-off is you consume a little bit more for this. But back to Melissa's point, if you want to use it, you want it to be fast, right? So I think this is a very, very fair trade-off in regards. And I can also tell you guys from my own environment here, we cannot fill the thing up. Okay. And
believe me, I've tried.
Yeah, we've tried. And we actually do, I do some like IO simulation type stuff that generates random.
I do a bunch of, ready for this, how bad I do this? I do instant VM recovery demos from this thing where I'm like, like timing everything because I'm doing the whole demo and it takes about like 6 minutes to recover my VM or whatever from soup to nuts. So I use it all the time.
Yeah, we that's the only backup storage we have in our lab, right? So it feeds the demos that we do and stuff like that. So yeah, but when we look at the support team, both that you mentioned that they're cross-trained. The other kind of angle that I think is what I observe in the market is the people who are in this space, right? People who are having to manage the overall storage associated with their secondary data, their backup data. They actually just want something different. They're tired of some of the problems they had on some of the other ones, whether it's support, whether it's overall cost of ownership. I hear that a lot. And I sit in the middle, right? Veeam doesn't make storage. We don't, we're at the crossroads of data, but we don't really go into either end of it. We see a lot of primary storage. We see a lot of secondary storage. So we have an interesting perspective on things. But no, this was a really good overview, Mark, and really appreciate that. And then one thing I'll highlight also is that we have a bunch of resources over at the Veeam website and over at the Exagrid website. So these QR codes, you can go right to the solution pages. Both the Veeam solution page and the Exagrid solution page. I can't remember which one I put first on there, but it goes to the right spot. And then throughout the websites, we've got great amounts of on-demand webinars, some white papers. Our help center docs, by the way, we have KBs and stuff that will outline how the different solutions are working together. And one thing I'll highlight, Mark, is that what we've done is pre-fill some of the options. And what I mean by that is if we say it's an Exagrid, then we'll automatically set job settings to be optimized for that target. So that was maybe 2-3 years ago, I think, that Veeam started doing that. But that was a big step, and no, good stuff. So we should be going to the map here in just a moment when we're ready for that. But the other thing I'll also say is if anybody has any tech questions, you can drop these in. All right, producer, just let me know. The map is ready. Let's take a look at that. So we've got a couple of new, we got Maryland in the U.S., South Carolina, welcome. We've also got Indonesia. We've got Indonesia, that's late. Or maybe it's early, I don't know, but I'm impressed. Indonesia, Chile, Saudi, Iran, welcome. Germany, we've had a lot of new countries here. That's good. A couple new. I don't have the list. I'm testing my geography. Swiss, welcome. Turkey, welcome. Uzbekistan, I think I saw in there. That's great. So again, welcome everyone. Thanks for letting us know where you're from. Saudi as well. So Ricky from South Carolina, chill. Awesome. So anyways, hey, Mark Crespi and the Exagrid team, thank you so much for joining us here on the LinkedIn Live.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Melissa, thank you as well for co-hosting and winging this out with me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Rick. I always love learning something new.
Awesome. That's true. I learned a little bit as well. I've been using Exagrid for 11 years here at Veeam, and I've learned something. So that's good stuff. All right. Well, on behalf of the Veeam global marketing team, who are the promoters and producers and social media doers who have brought this production to you, I'd like to thank them, first of all, and then thank Mark, Melissa for their help, and thank you all for watching. And that concludes today's broadcast.
Thanks, everybody.